Do you have any idea what their defense is going to be, given the fact that the judge has basically taken away their defense?
Am I the only person in the world talking about attacking the timeline, attacking the timeline, attacking the timeline, attacking the timeline?
Do you have any idea what their defense is going to be, given the fact that the judge has basically taken away their defense?
Taken away their defense.
Like, am I in crazy? 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 Like, am I in crazy?
Challenge the timeline of the murders.
Talking about attacking the timeline.
What's the strategy today?
Winning.
Winning.
Whose motherfucking hair is that?
What's the strategy today?
Winning.
Winning.
The consensus has been challenge the timeline of the murders. Challenge the timeline of the murders.
Even as a youngster, causing ruckus on the back of the bus. I was a fool all through high school, kicking up dust. But now I'm labeled as a troublemaker. Who can you blame? Smoking weed.
Hello. Welcome. Welcome to rmproductions. 11:52 p.m., y'all. Eee, how's everybody doing? Can you see me? Can you hear me? I think we're good. Man, that was a lot. That was a lot. How many of us were just over in Bob's watching Bob and Allie interview Andy Baldwin? Probably all of us. I took notes, y'all. I'm so tired. Why am I here? You're here because we all have an addiction. We all have problems. So I want y'all to go ahead and rattle off your favorite things, or at least what your key takeaway or takeaways are from Bob Motta and Allie Motta's amazing, life-altering, late-night, hours-long interview of Mr. Andy Baldwin, defense attorney for Delphi murder suspect Richard Allen. Hey, Deebs.
Yo, what up?
How's it going?
It's going good, dude.
What did you think?
Oh, I mean, I'm a roller coaster of emotion. I was mad. I was happy. I was angry. I rolled my eyes at Bob, just like Richard Allen did at sentencing. I rolled my eyes at Allie on occasion. I rolled my eyes at Andy Baldwin. I cheered in joy as he spoke. I pouted. I ruffled feathers in the chat. I told Gray Hughes to get fucked. I mean, it was just a night of nights, you know?
It was a night of nights. It really was. Also heartbreaking, says Amanda.
It was. It really was. I think hearing about the one thing that really kind of fucked me up was like hearing about how Ricky and Brad could go at each other. And Ricky's joke, dude, it just doesn't, that saying that at trial, in one way, it makes me so happy that he had the presence of mind to say something so clever.
Sure.
For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Dr. Marmon said that Ricky told him that he thought his attorneys were cops and one was the good cop and one was the bad cop. And Ricky said, I don't remember that, but, and he says this to Andy Baldwin, but you would be the good cop. And Andy explained that because Brad and him were contentious sometimes.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel like so happy that Rick has the ability to be contentious, but also sad that it means that maybe he's more, I guess, aware or like more less sedated to what's going on around him. Because I think like a way that I've thought about it is, all the stuff that's happened to him and maybe him not being in such a good mental state has meant that he really hasn't had time to process the trauma of everything. But I don't know, I guess it kind of makes me feel like he's really present in everything that's happening to him.
Which sucks, right? It's nice, but it's also like really unfortunate because he is experiencing every single second of his detention, really.
Yeah, which I don't know if that's a normal thing. Like, I don't know if other people thought that about his mental health situation, but
Yeah.
I guess I've been thinking that he's been a little bit more checked out, but I don't know, that made me feel it's just really humanizing. And then talking about how, he liked Taco Bell, and God, just like, I know you and I had talked about those moments where you see Brad pulling up with the fucking giant cooler, and he's got like 6 sandwiches in that bitch and some tacos and shit. And
yeah, barbecue pork.
Oh, just to fucking have, they would write his name on his coffee. And to go through what he went through those 2 years, I mean, the dude, tried to probably, in his own life, he probably tried to hurt himself. He probably just wanted to escape the reality that he was in, and just to have him appreciate that his name was written on his coffee for once. Like, in those moments, even if it was 3 weeks at lunch, he just got to feel like a normal person again. And he may not get to feel that for a very long time. It's so sad, but to know like he had some fleeting moments of humanity was really good to hear.
Yeah. Keith said, family thing. I missed the whole thing. I'm kind of sad. That's okay. You get to go back and watch it again, or you get to watch it in the light of day. I'll probably watch it again. I'll probably play it while I'm doing stuff again.
See, that's why I'm estranged from my family. So I can always talk about the criminal case against Richard Allen.
Against Richard Allen. Yeah. That was a good decision, TV. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
No contact. It gives you a lot of time to do a Delphi.
What do you take, like, on that topic? Don't copy me, but like, what was something impactful that you
copied me? I told you that was mine before we started, and you promised that you wouldn't say it, and you did.
But I said it first, and I lied.
No.
I tricked you, and I took it.
You should see my handwriting. I almost don't want to show you because it's
I have
really
seen your handwriting. And when you have little hands like that and pencils are normal size, it's going to be an issue for you.
You can't even. It is so bad. I can barely read it myself. It is bad. Yeah, the humanization of Richard Allen. And just, as much as I wanted Andy to just like shred to bits those deserving of shredding, it just wouldn't be authentic to who he is. And even his very fair, very measured and tempered comments about like the investigators, particularly Jerry Holman, who, I mean, how we feel about Jerry Holman here. It's just, I just can't understand how anyone could sit and listen to Andy Baldwin speak for any given amount of time and come away feeling like he's anything but authentic and kind and down to earth. And he's just honest. He's honest. And super hot, super fucking hot. All of those things, in concert make me just really, really even more curious as to what happened.
Sorry, a comment got me.
Jury. Pin it.
Oh, okay. I don't know what this is going to
It was the middle 3 hours. Yeah. I just don't know. I just don't understand what the jury saw or didn't saw.
LDB there, huh?
Yeah. I don't know, but I really enjoyed listening to him. It was cathartic. I hope it was cathartic for him. The other thing that I appreciated was his awareness and humility and ability to not even admit, because that kind of implies like an admission means like a wrongdoing. His ability to like self-reflect and reflect on their defense and acknowledge that there were things that they would do differently, and there were things that they could do differently and will do differently if they're able and God willing get another chance. And God, have we ever heard the state say that they would do things differently, or acknowledge any kind of?
Well, if there were mistakes made, they didn't know there were mistakes when they made them.
We didn't know that they were mistakes when we made them. And no, I don't think that there's anything that we would do differently. We did everything to the best of it. Like, oh my God, yawn. And Michael makes a great point, and I actually wrote, I want to go through my notes because particularly at the beginning of the interview, this is something that I believe we can say. So who are the two? Mark Lehman and the other person,
Stacey Luli, yeah.
Yeah. Can you say who that is for those who might not know?
So that's a total defense baddie. She was involved in the David Cam trial, I think the 4-3 trial of David Cam, who is a ISP state trooper who was accused of murdering his wife and kids. Later, it was determined that it was actually somebody that was a felon, a known violent felon in the area, and they were able to get, I think, 3. There was 3 trials, and he was found guilty multiple times, and he ended up getting a new trial when Stacey entered as his appellate counsel, and then she actually worked the trial as well with somebody at one of her law firms, and got the not guilty verdict. So that's a huge case in Indiana. If you guys have never heard of it, there's so much on it. It's like I think 5 years ago there was there was 60 minutes on it, 48 hours on it, and she also just won a reversal in a goal case. I think it's Hernandez.
I didn't know until today. I haven't. Yeah, that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, and then Mark Lehman.
Yeah, Mark Lehman is defense daddy for sure. He did the oral argument for the original actions in Rick Allen's case in January 2024. And he and Kara Winnicke and Bernice and Maggie and a couple of people whose names I don't have off the top of my head went before the Supreme Court of NDB, went before the Supreme Court of Indiana, and brilliantly
spit hot fire,
and Brad and Andy were reinstated, which is dope. What else did I write down?
Dude, Mark Lehman is so fucking good.
Yeah, he is. Here's something interesting. We got to hear the backstory, the history of how Brad and Andy came to be on the case.
So really my understanding was that former disgraced Judge Diener was looking for a defense hotshot for this case and stumbled upon one Bradley Rosie, and Brad reached out to Stacey Aaliyah, which I think is how you say her last name, and I'm going to say it like that. Yes. And she said, I know another hotshot down there in Franklin County. Give this dude a call. And, also just like hearing about Brad just being a fucking dog, dude.
Dude, you know how I feel about Brad.
Oh, it's well documented. I got screenshots.
When he held up the bullet points in the lawyer pad, tell me what you were thinking. It made the short list. If it made the short list, it bothered. Thank you so much, Jake Brooks.
Yeah, the one thing I seen on that list was I just seen Fortson. The word Fortson was the only thing I caught. And then I did white it out and put "fuck Jerry Holman" on it in my picture here. So
what did he say? So I missed about 20 minutes, and it sounds like I missed jury talk because I had to walk Boone. So what about how they chose the jury was different? Because I missed it, DB. Do you remember?
yeah, so
okay.
He didn't say specifically. I think because he wanted to save that issue for appeal, maybe. He didn't want to give it away, but basically, I think how the jury was selected in order. They picked the alternates last when they already picked like the actual jury first, and then how people were dismissed. And then I think some of the way that he was questioned, people were allowed to be questioned. Maybe some people have more insight of what he was talking about, but I don't think he got into the details because he clearly did not want to get into the details about it. So if anyone has more knowledge on the quirkiness of that, the jury was chosen remotely.
Yeah, I don't. Did he say that? That's
no. I don't remember him saying that. And they did voir dire in person in Fort Wayne.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they picked the. I don't know. Just odd. He said he had never done it that way before.
Right, but what way? Like, what was the particular thing that was?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I think he was talking about. Just like how weird.
Yeah, it was just fast too. They selected people one round, just okay, 6 out of 12, the first group in. Yeah, okay. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that. Yeah, I have a lot of questions about the jury. I really he couldn't choose. Thank y'all. What is Annie going to say that Allie stopped him from saying? Did I watch this? I feel like I missed all of these little.
Oh, he was gonna say that he fucks hard. He fucks heavy with rmproductions.
Yeah, we knew that.
But I know that Allie doesn't want that out there. She's trying to suppress that, and I understand.
Yeah. How come they came back day 2 and jurors were gone? I don't know. The jury came from Allen County. Oh, that was said.
Oh, hell, maybe that's what she means is they were chosen from a different place, and then they got the packets in the mail and then came.
I see. Okay.
What kind of did the jury come from? Allen County. He was going to say Ari was factually innocent. Oh, yeah, that.
You did say that already.
Well, he was asking him again, like, could you say that after the finding and the sentence? And he said, Henry Scott, the case I was looking at, or Stephen Litz. I think I sent this to you guys on Discord, but basically it goes into this guy getting punished for writing a letter to the editor saying that somebody was factually innocent, and there's too much pretrial publicity.
What the fuck ever, dude.
Yeah, Judge Jessica, that's right. I think Michael misses being live with you, RNM and DB.
He's live. Michael is an open invite. He's always live with me. Michael's live with me more than DB now these days.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want a trial attorney like me. You want an appellate attorney.
I don't want a burrito attorney. Here's another thing that I thought was interesting. After I liked hearing about October 31st, 2023, because that was a day that lives in infamy. No, really. Obviously, we remember that day. It was the day that Judge Gold removed Brad and Andy from Rick's case. Well, no, it was the day that she officially would not allow them to continue as pro bono, right? So
that's right.
That was very interesting to me. So basically, when that happened, Brad was the one, I guess, after the night. So the 19th was when they had the in-chambers ambush, where Judge Cole basically called them all of the names and grossly negligent and blamed Andy for something that, what?
Pee-pee poo-poo heads.
Yeah, pee-pee poo-poo heads. And Andy was very raw and very, just very vulnerable in that interview with Bob and Allie, talking about how like just despondent and beaten down he was after that, and how Brad was like,
You being a little bitch.
get the fuck up, Andy. I love that, because we all need people like that. I feel like that's what, like, I mean, I think immediately I think of Courtney. Is like, yeah, I have like a Courtney and a DB, and actually I have a bunch of people who do that, but certainly was nice to hear that. And just the way that he spoke about, you know, because there's been so much nonsense and defamatory, slanderous bullshit that's permeated the airwaves about the attorneys, and hearing that like at no point did Brad ever blame Andy, want to be, you know, sever ties from Andy. You know, it was just like very, very encouraging to hear that, because there's just such loyalty and camaraderie, and the, even hearing Rick call Andy the good cop, man, it's just like they have good relationship. They've been through a lot together. It was just really nice hearing them talk about it. Yeah. Steve says, I think it's shit that no one can talk to him. Yeah, that's my next thing.
Well, so okay, can I respond?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Respond, DB.
I did just hear something here in chat. I would like to just respond to this egregious comment, dude, because I did get a message from our friend here, and he was pretty explicit.
My God.
So woman, I hear you out here. I love Andy Baldwin. He's gonna be my dad, and Jennifer Arnold's gonna be my mom, and da 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 da. He's telling you to lay off me, dude. So that's all I gotta say about that. Continue. I'm sorry.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Andy, for going to bat for our baby girl, DB. It was really nice.
Wait, what else would he do?
Was that that was your response, right? That was your whole response.
That was it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And I already blew my 2 fucking memes I worked on. So
I loved them. They were really good. You really blew those quick, huh? Gull called Andy to vet him, and they spoke. And Gull's daughter, we know, she works in the prosecutor's office, right? She's an attorney for the prosecutor's office, and Andy knows her, and they have good. They've always, yeah, he thinks very fondly, like very highly of her, which was interesting, because I was just thinking, like, everybody likes Andy. Everybody likes Andy except for Judge Cole and obviously the state in this case. And I'm just like, anyway, it doesn't matter. I want to talk about like the actual shit I wrote down, not my thoughts about it. Brad's the guy. He's like the guy that you go to when you have a complicated case or whatever the fuck. Of course he is. Big surprise. Gallup who lied. Big surprise there. Hearing Andy talk about Westville Control Unit was the hardest part of that interview for me. And hearing him talk about Rick being back in Westville Correctional Facility, the way that Rick's sentencing and then his confinement and then transfer to RDC, which generally when convicted persons go to the RDC, which is the whatever control, whatever the fuck, it's where they go for their like pre-detention assessments, and they determine the best facility or correctional facility or setting for them. Andy said that takes generally like 6 to 8 weeks for them to do all of that stuff. And during that time, you can't talk to them because they're being evaluated or whatever. And Rick went from sentencing to RDC back to fucking Westville in 6 days. That's insane. That's very suspicious to me. And he had never seen that before, said Andy.
Yeah. I already know what the explanation is going to be probably. And it's that Rick was already processing the system and had a file and da-da-da-da-da. So if that ever comes up, like, I just know for a fact that they're going to try to play that shit. Hammy's here.
Hi, Hammy, I love you. That doesn't make any sense, though. That's a really bad explanation. That doesn't make any sense. His file?
No, I'm not saying it makes sense. I mean, these people are fucking clowns.
It's a big deal. It's a big issue. I agree with this, too.
This issue is very in right now.
He said, is this how people live? This is something out of an asylum from a horror movie, is what he said about Westville Control Unit.
Right, and I said, dude, I think the asylums and horror movies probably got better accommodations.
Probably. Hannibal Lecter, the very first meeting they went to, he couldn't even lift his arms up. Andy had to pour water for him, had to give him water with his hand. The first time they ever met. This is the first time. Remember that interview we saw of Brad and Andy at the November 22nd hearing, the very first hearing where they, the hearing to unseal the PCA, and they're standing outside and Andy is talking about how is Rick doing? And he's like, he misses human contact because at that point he had already been in solitary confinement for 3 weeks, which is longer than what the fucking, the World Health Organization, or who is it? Who says that that's torture? Whoever the fuck. Geneva? Who is it?
Geneva. Switzerland.
What is it? Switzerland.
Geneva Convention.
Geneva. Yeah, I don't know. He was in there for a long time by then, 3 weeks. And Andy was already talking about how he misses human connection. And he's having to give him, he can't even lift his hands up to drink water. I don't know. This is my own hyperfixation. I think water is going to be really important in this case. Not in this case, but like in terms of like, I just keep seeing instances of them depriving Rick Allen of water. It just keeps fucking coming up, and it's pissing me off. Really, it's really pissing me off. So he can't even lift his hands to drink a bottle of water the first time he ever meets with his attorneys.
That's relatable for me after my incident.
Your incident? Can you say
double wrist contusions?
Oh, your Tumblr. Yeah, your Tumblr issue. They switched his water off. Yep, he's not getting his basic needs met. Yeah, and imagine it's the first time you ever meet your attorneys and he has to feed you water like you're a baby. How dehumanizing.
Right. I think Ricky should have got Voss water the whole time.
Right, for sure.
And Fiji water.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Andy left the first meeting they had. Andy left thinking, this sucks because I believe him. Like, the weight of his life is now on my shoulders because I believe him and I believe he's innocent. And wow, how much does that fucking suck? Because, I mean, they're not stupid. They've defended how many people before. They know that, I mean, once you're arrested and charged, it's basically an uphill fucking battle, especially for double murder, especially in this case. Like, they know what they're up against. And imagine you don't know, and then you meet him and you're like, fuck, he's innocent. What could be worse, you know?
I'm literally on the live.
Yeah, it's fucked up. What else did I say? Oh, when they talked about the local, like, police and security guards that were guarding Rick during trial and how good they were to them, and how, which honestly, every time we've seen local, like Carroll County, like Yoder and even John Cola, like every time we see them bringing Rick in, like remember he gets out of the car with his glasses and his Crocs, he smiles, they're talking to him. Like, I never got the sense that, like,
that wasn't Yoder, that was Cass County.
No, Yoder has, in a couple of the videos, he has been bringing him inside.
During a trial?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. But the fact that, like, they're all just, like, joking around about, like, fantasy football and their wives snoring, he said, and, like, bringing Rick food, and just, I don't know. It made me, like you said at the beginning of the live, it was both very encouraging and just very heartbreaking because he is still, I don't know. It's
A
just
human.
really- yeah.
A human being. Those guards will be fired immediately, probably for
being nice.
For not growling at Andy Baldwin.
Yeah. For not doing a human rights violation just because. I wrote down tacos, ribs, sandwich. See, I wrote down taco. I literally wrote down tacos, ribs, sandwich.
Oh, you did write that.
Yeah.
I see something about gourds. Or is that guards or gourds?
It says guards. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Oh,
You
no,
said you were gonna
below.
put it on my handwriting.
Of the list of.
Laugh, joke with guards. Rick's a really funny guy. He said that just spending time with him heartened him. He was able to be humorous in the worst situation. That was the most human interaction he had in years. He was one of the guys, which makes me wonder. Actually, no, it makes me. What?
Peter.
Oh, lawyer, you know. I don't know
Professional.
why. I don't know why when you said lawyer, you know, I immediately thought of Lawyer Lee, and I was like, that's not true. There's no way. Hey, Fiend, welcome to the after party. You're late. It's okay. You're tardy. Another thing. Oh, so Andy also spoke of right after the yeah, sure, go ahead, DB. Just give it out to everybody. I can't wait for all the dick pics to come my way.
I thought you liked those.
I like to be able to choose selective dick pics. Also, when he talks about what?
You got a catalog or something?
I like to be able to filter the dick pics I get.
Oh, yeah, true.
No, when they were talking about how basically the entire sentencing hearing felt like beating the drum of don't appeal. If you really found God and believe in God, and you won't appeal. And and we knew that they were gonna fucking do that too.
Yeah, it looks like Hunting Evil's up here now. Hi,
Hey,
Hunting Evil.
I want to finish going through my notes, so let me finish and then y'all can rip. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I was gonna leave soon anyways.
Okay.
You rolled your eyes about.
If you found God, you won't appeal. Didn't that piss you off? Oh, motherfucker. Hey, Fiend, welcome, friend. What'd you think?
No, go through your notes.
Well, give me at least a couple words so that people can at least, have your thoughts, because I know they're dying to hear them.
I mean, I was in the chat on Defense Diaries.
So you want to come up? You're going to come up on the panel, and you're not going to tell me how you felt about it? What if?
Well, your first thing you said was like, I want to finish my notes. You're
right. Thank you. Okay. Well, no, just because I never have any structure, and I took look how good these notes are, Fiend. Like they're like.
Those are some beautiful notes.
Imagine if I was the.
I should have taken some notes. My notes were just the comments in the section, and those are not good notes.
Well, I don't know. That's subjective. I just can't stop thinking about them trying to shame and malign and bully him. You know what that says to me? That they know that Rick has a conscience and that he's a good man and that he cares, because that wouldn't work on somebody who could just callously kill two girls and then go on living his life for 6 years. You think that they're really going to give a shit about whether or not Rick, the family wants him to appeal? No, a real callous murderer would be like, fuck that. I don't care. I'm going to appeal. You know what I mean? No, it's continuing.
Yeah, none of that makes.
Where did woman go?
None of that makes any sense at all. It's very, very silly stuff.
Yeah. So I'm glad that Andy chased him out afterwards and was like, look, dude, don't let and that's always been my worry with Rick, because he is so, and we've heard even experts testify to his dependence, and I don't mean that in a negative way, like his almost like I don't know. It's like it's just part of his personality. He cares a lot about people. He wants people to like him, and he doesn't want people to be mad at him. Like, he's a good dude. You know, he's a kind dude. And it just makes me really, really angry hearing somebody like Jerry fucking Holman be like, oh, he's manipulative. He manipulates people with kindness and religion. Like,
Well, that sounds more like sleuth intuition to me.
no comment. No comment. Also, Gull asking him flat out during the oh, that's great. Rosie says, hi, Rosie. Rosie says, I can't tell what I'm looking at. And this is exactly why I didn't want DP to just send out the link. Just James, if I can't see what I'm looking at.
I can read the comment. I saw
Oh,
all
hey.
but hour of last night's Defense Diaries episode. I took notes and will watch it again. When I interview Jerry Holman, I'm going to ask questions about the issues raised.
Okay, good. I hope so. Nice work, Bob. It was a great show. I didn't know until today that you're a defense attorney. He's the exact opposite of the person who's capable of this horrific crime. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. How about we all love Andy now? Rick wanted the families to have closure and for his family to be able to move on. He thinks of others first. Free Ricky Bay had the idea that maybe that was the secret. So the secret half-day hearing was Goal asking him if he wanted to plead guilty. Did you catch that, Fiend? Did I get that right?
I guess I was confused about that part, but I'm also confused about what Rosie just said, because she just said, like, she talking about like OG's like interview, because I didn't think that we got all that much from OG. I think she was very reserved, actually, compared to Andy, which I'm not surprised by. Like, I think we got a lot more information from Andy. Hammy, I'm not doing animal sounds for you.
Hey, Bob, that was awesome. You and Allie did such a good job. Andy obviously felt very comfortable, which is what we want. I mean, which is obviously what you want out of an interview. I'm really glad that he felt it was cathartic, or at least, and I can also understand him being nervous about like him talking about the weight of the world being on his shoulders. Like, everything and anything that you say could absolutely impact, you know.
Well, there's not a gag order, so let it spill. Right. You know, like I was hopeful that, you know, I thought that we might not get a whole lot from them. A lot of the defense attorneys would be reserved on a lot of the stuff, but you know, I did if I had to put my money on somebody to talk a little bit, it was going to be on Andy, and I think we got some good stuff from Andy for sure.
Absolutely. I love that man. And I feel like, well,
like, talk, go ahead. Like, gag order's gone. Like, go ahead.
They have to preserve his appeal, dude.
What? Well, I know that.
Okay.
But hey, Andy also knows that.
Right, but I'd be down to like not hear anything else if that was going to help Rick's appeal. Like this, like I guess like at this stage, like asking for information.
Yeah.
Asking for information. I mean,
well, I just mean we all want
information. Would always be helpful. Like we've always
definitely
more information.
Except when it was criminalized for them to talk to us or like say anything about the case. So I just mean like at this point, because the state seems to be like 5 steps ahead, trying to like backdate like things that are problems.
Well, I think we saw that Andy wasn't aware of a lot of those things at all.
It's exactly.
Yeah, he was in a hotbed he had no idea about. And Jerry Holman's a fucking terrorist.
He is a terrorist. Yeah. I want to read one other thing. I wrote this down and I starred it because it's a direct quote from Andy. And I feel like this needs to be like in neon whoever, I think it's what did they say? Fucking Stacy and Mark, right? Probably the handling the appeal. But even if Brad and Andy are, because they're going to continue to, they want a new trial and they deserve Rick deserves a new trial. But I started this. When he's talking about them moving Rick back to Westville and so quickly, he says, what does he say? He says, I never thought that they would be bold enough to send him back to Westville. And that to me, like, I understand that sentiment because I think we've all felt that way before. Like, well, surely they won't go so far as to fill in the blank. But we need to abandon that line of thinking. Like, we are so far past.
Well, I think most of us did abandon that line of thinking a long time ago.
Right, like procedure and all that stuff is just out the window with Gull, like thinking that, you know, oh, the defense attorneys aren't going to get taken off because that doesn't legally make any sense at all. Like, but where she just does whatever the fuck she wants.
Right.
So does everybody else. So, like, I think it's just, we're got to keep on that train of, like, expecting the fuckery.
Yeah. Well, and I think that part of it too is because, and I'm glad that both Ajay and Andy thus far have said, for, you know, they didn't watch a lot of stuff and they certainly didn't communicate with people that they were accused of, you know, conspiring with or whatever. But I really do think that there is what we see and what we perceive and our perception from the outside is different than what they see on the inside. And I think that sometimes they need to maybe be a little bit more open to consumption of, I don't want to say social media, but just like the input of other people. I do think the gag order was so restrictive and oppressive and whatever the opposite of like uniform, it was like not uniformly enforced, obviously. So I guess
a misdirected email was being like used that like Mullen didn't even like find the email or read the email of, and the shit with like Mitch, like they criminalized like all this stuff that like no one even investigated. They had the same shit at the contempt hearing that they did in Chambers on the 19th, which was nothing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
exactly. And they didn't investigate any of it. Like any of it.
Yeah, they stopped at like whatever that Carpenter dude was.
How about learning that Holman arrested Mitch Westerman himself?
What?
Yeah.
Was I arrested?
I don't know if you heard. I don't know. He did say that, like, when he was talking about the outrageousness, first of all, of arresting somebody, going to their home and arresting them on a misdemeanor. First of all, it's outrageous. But Holman went to Mitch Westerman's home and was arrested Mitch Westerman.
Well, I do know that they took him to ISP and they had Andy and Brad be interviewed by Ben Rector instead of Holman for the conflict of interest for the first time like ever. And so then like I think Rector or Holman like also interviewed like Murder Sheet together, which I still think is the funniest thing in the world. But like I guess like it makes sense. How did they get there?
They're still trying to hack into his phone. I've never heard that they gave his phone back.
Yeah, because they dismissed. So first it was what?
No, but that's separate. Like they still already have like took custody of his phone and are trying to hack into his phone. And Ben Rector's like, well, it might take 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And so all like everything else dismissed, but like they're still trying to hack into his phone
and then
and see
Nick
what's
talks
there.
about it as work product, like it's not work product privilege, like where he's like totally all up in those messages and like saying that like Andy is leaking information when he's not even supposed to be looking at that.
I mean,
there's a statute.
They're ridiculous. Like there's no reason to question like what Andy Baldwin has to say like on this subject. You can just talk to him and be like, oh yeah, this is a genuine guy. Like he's obviously telling us the truth. Like what weird ass conspiracy do you think is happening here? Like he said, like I thought that was like a big piece of information. Like he has no idea when Mitch Westerman did that. Like,
Right. Well, we don't
like,
know either.
who knows? And like, if he doesn't know, then nobody knows, and nobody's ever gonna know except Mitch Westerman. But like, you're not gonna get it from him. All the charges are dismissed. You're not gonna get any information about this ever.
Wait, but I was wondering, like, I'm surprised that he actually like was still talking with Mitch, because I almost could see like part of like his like expungement like was to like not say anything, because we didn't hear from him like at all this entire time.
Well,
So I
but
guess
notice
Well,
the
that's
after
that's the
trial.
whole lesson for everybody. Don't talk to the fucking cops. Like Mitch
Wait until
Westerman
after
went
the
to law
trial.
school. Like, he knows that. Don't talk to the
no,
cops.
I mean to get out of his charges. Like, he was going to court and he had like hearings. He was supposed to
I
have a
mean,
trial, and they kept pushing it, and like he didn't talk to anybody. Like,
well, it's a weak case. That's the best thing you can do is not talk. Don't
Yeah.
talk to anybody. Don't say
to
anything
tell his
ever.
side of the story, I guess more so is what
Yeah,
I'm
but
trying
no,
to say.
no, that's it's always going to be bad for you to say anything.
But now,
don't
even
say
now, it's
no.
expunged. It's gone. It doesn't exist.
Hey guys.
Yeah, but they still got his phone.
Hi, woman.
Hi. Gritty said that when she went to the Westerman hearing that DCS was mentioned, or DHS was mentioned. Not
Right.
CPS, right?
Because they filed the criminal charges, criminal for the conversion, and a family court case on the same day. So like he was getting like taken to town for 2 issues, which one of them disappeared and then the second one disappeared.
Family court for what?
I don't know.
Probably
I
his
just
divorce.
got clarity for it.
What? I didn't hear either of you.
It's probably for his divorce.
So what's what does that have to do with
He has kids.
Yeah, because he has kids.
Yeah, but still,
Exactly.
But if it went away, it went away.
But DHS and
we don't know if it went away because we can't access family court files.
Pause. A lot of people get divorced with kids, and DHS doesn't get involved. Like
100%.
There's more to that.
Yes,
there's
100%.
more to that. DHS doesn't get involved just because you're divorced and you have children. That's not a DHS
right.
judgment.
Right. But
That's
we
the whole
already
point.
know that. That's a given with this shit.
I feel like every time they don't want something touched, they bring in DHS.
Yeah, they're the common
because
link.
it's a very effective way to leverage children against. I mean, sure, children are a great way, much like victims. How do you get the world to discredit Todd Click? You just accuse him of some kind of misdemeanor that, you know.
And you have all these little people that are willing to like do all kinds of crazy shit because they know they're protected, and they've kind of like been raised to, I guess, like wreak havoc like wherever like they need to be.
Oh, and Doug Click, was that his name?
Doug Click? What?
There was someone in the chat
brother
saying that they were Todd Click's brother, which, I mean, I could go into a chat and say that too, so I'm skeptical, but
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I'm always skeptical.
But he was giving times. He was giving times and dates and places to where Click was arrested.
Oh, what did he say?
Check.
I don't know. Like the first thing to check out is to see if he actually has a brother named Doug. Would be like
right, but like, why would he give that information? The case is still open, and like,
well,
but
step one would be like to make sure he has a brother named Doug. That's step one.
That sounds reasonable. You should see how badly Holman harassed a lot of Indiana citizens and gets promoted again. There's not anything we can do because if we try, we're an instant target. Seen it happen. I've heard that Holman doesn't harass.
I'm down with Baldwin on like no more.
No. You got it all wrong. And you got it all wrong. Holman's the one that's being harassed. People are calling him Shrek on the internet. Have you heard about that?
Not just that.
They called him.
They
Shrek.
said he didn't investigate because
they called him Shrek, and they're doing an investigation about the Shrek allegations.
What are we going to do about that? People calling him Shrek. That's really aggressive and unkind.
I can't believe somebody would do that.
But I'm down with Baldwin on like any little thing, like not letting it go, because like as we can see, like any little, I guess, like, oh, we'll wait till the next hearing, or we'll file this another time. Like it just snowballs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure
then
does.
we like forget about all these little things that they're also getting away with, like in the process.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to
Fragile
pin.
egg.
Oh, don't put that on the screen.
Why? This is just
Oh,
more
no.
of what oh, this is DB's memes. I feel like I posted another one and now I can't find it. If I find out that DB deleted my media asset to make room for his meme template. Okay. Back to, I think we were talking about the boldness, the brazenness of the state, whatever you wanted to refer to, the state.
The actors, the state actors.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, the state actors. So yeah, we're gonna put that in neon flashing lights. Whatever you think is too over the top, egregious, and brazen and corrupt for them to do, just assume that they're going to do it.
And even the weird shit that seems like innocuous, like, so Gull sent out that like, oh, please delete this thing that I sent you by accident to the, I think like 3 media outlets on Rick's pre sentencing investigation, which we know now that Rick did not participate in, number 1. But number 2, that was sent out to certain people, and there was a whole comment article that chronicled everything that Rick did in that PSI thing, like where it's like this person came to meet with him on this day, and then he did this, and then totally made up that he was like charged with LWAP, and like was going through like the it was like insane.
Where?
On a comment article, the same article that said like Rick was like talking to this person for like the different steps, I guess, of the sentencing investigation, which he didn't do. So like, why the hell was that sent to them?
The comment had it?
Yeah. And she said all these events happened that never happened.
I missed that article, dear. Do you have it? Can you link it?
Yeah, I think Kara went off on it too.
The comment has lost a lot of credibility here.
100%.
Like it's just a nosedive. Like
it was the courtroom Karen that kicked out
Amy.
But it's more just like I guess that combination of weird facts.
Yeah,
like why those 3 people were sent a random thing that doesn't even exist, and how like she just like put that in as fact when none of that actually happened.
We're gonna
the really sad thing is that it was a pretty good publication, like even several years ago. Like
it was fantastic up until they sold it in order to get rid of Deblow, because Deblow was a really good, thorough, investigative journalist editor. So, man, they sure do know how to make their problems disappear there. That's all I will say.
Well, right. With the also, dude, this is baked in from like a long time ago. Like I know you were throwing a fit about like how can they remove Brad and Andy off the case, but like they're just allowed to.
Sure.
Like it's baked in. It's baked into Carroll County law. As soon as the sentencing is done, you can remove the attorneys, and then nobody can file a motion to correct. So your appeals go away. Which is probably smart, because it probably saves you a lot of money in the long run.
We need to go back
to this article. Like even if you cut down on like 50% of your appeals, like, hey man, that's money in your pocket.
I messaged it to you on X and in the private chat.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, private chat. Got it. We gonna read it. Okay, the other thing is when to be sentenced on Friday. I remember this. Yeah. What the fuck was this about? So Share screen. Yeah. Allen to be sentenced Friday. Okay. So I want to go to a review of the Indiana aggravating factors. And they can argue mitigating whatever. So she's just misciting Indiana law. She understands it. Okay, pre-sentence investigation. Information collected for the sentencing included a pre-sentence evaluation. That evaluation was completed by the Allen County Probation Department and filed confidentially with the court on December 13th. On the same day, Gull issued a court order stating that due to clerical error, the pre-sentence investigation may have inadvertently been made accessible, blah, blah, blah. The individuals named are attorneys with, they're not connected to the case. Okay. Is that all, though? So she's talking about what a sentence could be.
Well, yeah, all that's incorrect. And we know for a fact that Rick did not partake in any pre-sentence investigation. So, like, how is she, like, writing this like it happened?
Is she talking? Well, where did she say that he did participate in it, though? I think I missed that. I know I just read it, but I feel like the evaluation was completed. So they're saying an evaluation was completed. So that's, I see.
And they gave a timeline, I think. Yeah, on the bottom right, it goes to the next page, pre-sentencing, included all this crap, and
I don't see anything about. So it's talking about his timeline. He could receive this. He could receive. Rosie, this is actually your tweet. So this is the comment article story about Richard Allen's sentencing hearing in today's Carroll County Comment. And this would have been posted on Allen to be sentenced Friday. So before the 20th of December. So whenever that was. But yeah, it is all wrong. Like well, just Amy, what's her face's interpretation of the law is wrong. Can you share the link? I don't have the link. I can share the link to the tweet, though. Okay. We got more insight as to the kind of life course of the defense, learning about the Odinism and different angles that the investigation took. The state's investigation, we learned about. Andy said, I wanted to email Nick and Holman and ask them about this supposed picture, right, of this like mimicked crime scene on so-and-so's Facebook, but I didn't even trust, like he couldn't even trust them enough to ask them.
I was surprised that early he wasn't able to trust them.
Yeah,
I
and that was
thought it was later.
Summer. Yeah, that was like June-ish, right? Or when did he say?
He said March.
March. That's really early.
Yeah. That's what I thought. And then he mentioned how Purdy came back on the stand in the summer hearings and was like, actually, like, I've never authenticated this as being on his Facebook page. And like, yeah, Purdy's no longer employed by ISP, which is interesting.
That is really interesting. And he didn't want to like extrapolate too much on that. And I'm curious. Also, did we know that Murphy specifically authored the 12-page?
Yes.
We did know that. Okay. I don't think
I think we heard that. But I've also it's weird that Andy also was like, I've heard this a lot recently of people that think that this Odin report, this 12-page report, is just out there.
Dude, I couldn't believe how much stuff he knew is not
Andy
out there.
Like, oh, it's out there. They're like, it's not. Like, somebody send it to any one of us.
I messaged.
So we can
We're
have,
lucky
so
we could get the motions that were filed with the court.
Yeah, I messaged and I was like, just make sure that Andy knows that, like, because obviously, and it was good to hear him talking about, like, they were inundated, right, with discovery and all of that. And then afterwards, what did he call it? Like his post-mortem 6 weeks of, right. I can't imagine. I mean, even we in our little community have suffered a postmortem.
Yeah, I don't hold shit against him. I mean, like, there's so many ways we could all, look back on things, and at least he's willing to look back on like the other half of the equation. But I guess,
but he didn't. I just feel like maybe they don't realize that just because they successfully got evidence admitted, which was
or Gull says stuff out loud that like
Right.
isn't true. And
Right.
like none of that stuff we got, like half the transcripts we don't have because Gull put a lockdown on Wallace Summer testimony and a few other people, I think.
And it's like, I don't know that they quite understand that. And it's almost,
well, they didn't even get the June safekeeping hearing transcript until
don't even,
2024.
because we still don't have the PCA for it. Like we are
Right.
literally in post conviction like appeal territory.
Well, I
here,
got an angle
and we
on
do
that.
not have
That's
the
actually
PCA.
helpful.
Not a single attorney has ever filed a motion to unseal the PCA. Like that, we do not have the PCA. We have no
That's
idea
a good thing right
what
now
date
at this
what
point.
date the PCA was signed, who the affiant on the PCA is, the affiant, whatever. Like
AJ.
we don't have that information. We don't have the entire PCA. It's never been unsealed.
Well, that doesn't matter because he's convicted. So, you know, like he was guilty. So we don't need any of that now.
Well, that's a stupid place to be. That you don't like we're so the cart is so far in front of the horse that it's so stupid.
That's
like,
the first
the first thing that we should have is the PCA, but we're already past conviction and in appeal territory. Like, why can't we just like see what the PCA is? The media made a big deal about the PCA and then was like, cool, we got half the PCA, we're good.
Well, that was, I think, part of Gull's like tactic where like she like blocks everyone off from everything and then like it slowly like gives them little breadcrumbs so that like I almost feel there must have been a media meeting prior to the September before trial that was like private. Like that couldn't have been the first one.
There was.
Well, there's only one single journalist that ever mentioned it, and it was Donnie, and then he got fired.
He's not even there yet. He got fired. Exactly.
He got fired.
Be the first time.
Yeah, that was the only person that ever mentioned the secret meeting was Donnie, and he got fired.
Right. The secret meeting is the day that they got the extra $2 million.
Also,
well, no, that actually wasn't. They got the $2 million, or they had the city like council audit meeting, because that was the Thursday before the trial.
They also raised their taxes to get $4 million to cover the $2 million.
What did they do?
I know
they did nothing, but like I would just love a list.
I don't know what they're like. I mean, I know what they're doing, but like, I mean, they're running a scam on like, you know, Hoosiers. They're just like stealing their money, and I don't know what they're doing with it.
And they had the audit meeting the day before opening statements for the trial in the courthouse.
I want to talk about the hearing.
Oh my God! Yes.
The private hearing, what is it called? The closed door.
She does she does the private hearing and then the public hearing. And then when she books
she
never does the public hearing. Just like the last time, October 19th, public, private, no.
But there was no public hearing. The only thing that happened at the private hearing was Brad and Jen, because Andy had another murder trial, I believe.
That was his case that he has with Gull. That was the same morning. Yes. So Gull is in Delphi.
That's the Allison.
But meanwhile, she knows she's got a hearing with Baldwin across like it's just so insane.
And that hearing, we learned finally, because there's been so much speculation as to what that hearing was. That hearing was, and I'm glad that Andy explained it because it makes sense. Gull basically, because of all the rumors and all the bullshit, Gull wanted to have a hearing just privately with like the state and Rick and his attorneys to essentially ask Rick outright, do you want to plead guilty or go to trial? Right? Is kind of how I understood it.
Yeah. And then didn't tell anybody about that. And then, like, I guess I just get even more pissed off is that she wasn't having a public hearing from the start. And don't you remember, like, all the media was out there? They were like waiting, and they're like, "Oh, another hearing." We're like, all of a sudden, like, we just get yelled at by Liggett to get out of here. There's no hearing. Like, that pisses me off. Like, it wasn't like a change of plans. Like,
So what was
and
that
all
public
those
hearing
people
going to
come
be?
out there.
What did she think was going to
Well,
happen?
I mean, I think
She scheduled it.
I think that they thought that like they on the brain rot is so bad. I mean, I think they've all convinced themselves that like they were going to go into this closed hearing and Rick Allen was just going to suddenly be guilty.
Bean, can you please correct?
Yeah.
Because
and then they were like, "Oh yeah, well that didn't happen, so well fuck all this. We're not gonna have.
And it
we're
came
not gonna
to
have
the
any hearings."
attention of the court that, like, from the public maybe, and then didn't have to clarify this like false information that was out there.
Yeah, it just needs a minute.
I just want to clarify, we have no evidence that Donnie ever got fired, Bean.
Yes, we do. He said he left his job.
Yeah.
Me and
he
Fiend
left
said,
it.
like, congrats.
Yeah, he left his job. He didn't get
It
fired.
was like the day of sentencing.
No,
the day
he was let go or he was fired. I don't. If you want to distinguish between those two things, like
semantics.
right, semantics, right, cat,
What if
semantics.
he chose to leave? Why are we assuming that he?
No, he didn't choose to leave. He was sad.
How do you know?
Because he was sad.
And
He was
nothing's
sad
a
and
fucking
leaving.
coincidence.
And
Nothing.
he deleted his Twitter.
I want to be evidence and fact-based. That's all. We don't know.
I
but we
saw
do
it
know.
with my own eyes.
We'll have the journalists go hunt down the journalists and find out the truth here. I didn't want to, like, fuck him up even more. I felt bad.
I think the proper semantics say is he was let go.
Yes.
Like what?
But didn't get like a bad
is let go
recommendation for a new
fired?
job.
Yes. Also,
I
yeah.
don't know. Rosie wants to come on and answer questions. Of course you can, Rosie. So, okay. I just want to make sure we're not doing like a miss or disinfo.
I'm not trying to say he was fired for that. Like it could be for that.
But
it's
that
probably
also
for
was...
capitalist reasons. Like, hey, we're not making any money, so get the fuck out of here.
Right, for sure.
But when there was the
link.
status hearing, had the I think it was like right around the time where they were trying to get Tobe and Westfall and his son subpoenaed. And that's when Nick filed the motion to quash, like the morning of that random hearing. So we all kind of thought like maybe that's what they were talking about or going to be. He filed a bunch of like motions. Nick's a motion to quash Lesenby, Westfall, quash David Schilling, and then Rosie files the order to shorten the discovery response period because they still hadn't gotten Cecil's extraction report.
When? Sorry, I that was in
That's the day that we just talked about, the public private hearing day, August 23rd, I think it was. But so right before that I remember that morning, like a bunch of like things flying through and thinking to myself, like, why are they like in this like hearing and then filing these motions to quash like at the same time? It was bizarre.
Yeah. So we know that there's a lot of things that happen in the case that are like bizarre timing. One that I wrote down, not bizarre timing, but we already knew this for sure. The April 28th, 2024 date where he said a very important thing happened on that day. He said that is the day that so they were going to trial the 5th or the 7th or the 9th
5th or 7th of May.
And
because,
then
the email.
So basically, the state knew that the defense was preparing a third party suspect defense. They were well aware of that. They
were preparing to defend against that.
Yes, they had hired third party suspect defense. They had, gotten their witnesses. They had Odin as an expert. Like they were ready to go to trial. with thank you, Miku. I couldn't remember the date. Miku's right. It was the 13th. So the state's preparing for this third party defense. And please hold, because I do have it pulled up. Or I did have it pulled up. I'm going to pull it up. Here it is. Email from Judge Goal. Ha ha ha.
Because it's in Baldwin's second, technically third motion to DQ, right? Is that where the email pops up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I was just wanted to
No,
make
no,
sure.
yeah,
I'm like,
no,
how
you're
did
right,
they fit that in?
Yep, and I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember why we had this. I just knew that it was through defense filing. So thank you. You're right. It was in there, and that happened not long after the trial got delayed.
No, that morning, Andy was like, I have here like this like disqualification
and he's like, do you want to read it? And she was like, no.
It was a day that the courts were closed in Indiana because that's when Go likes to hold hearings when the court is closed. And then so therefore like he couldn't file it because no one was there.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I'll get it when you file it.
Right. So this is the email. So basically, this is what the 28th, 29, 30, 1, 2, 3. So this is literally not even 3 weeks before trial is supposed to start. And Gull says, good morning. I will answer your questions as follows. And this is going to Brad, but she's CCing the state and obviously Jen and Andy. So here she goes. The intent is that the jury selection will take 3 days. Court will be in session, blah, 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 blah. Here it is. The order I reference above contemplates an invitation to the media to meet with me. This case was set as a speedy trial at the request of the defendant, May 13th to the 31st. That is the length of the trial, not more or less. When the order was issued, not one attorney notified the court the length of the trial was insufficient. In fact, is consistent with the previously scheduled length in January. I intend to start court.
And in June in 2023.
She's so
Right.
They said they were going to 8 weeks. It's on the record. And what judge doesn't ask the parties what their case is going to take? Like,
she's just a liar.
Yeah, she is.
So,
sorry.
No, it's okay. She is a liar.
I'm excited.
I know. The defense is claiming it will take a couple of weeks to present its case. I am unsure what exactly the defense intends to present. Weird. What judge? What do you mean? You have literally, maybe if you would read, sorry, let me finish reading. I am quite familiar with the law regarding third-party perpetrators, and unless the defense can provide a nexus between any alleged third-party perpetrators and the charged crimes, those allegations are unsupported and will be inadmissible. What? So I haven't read that in a long time, but literally she's basically
12 hours.
She's the first chair of the prosecution, pretty much.
She's giving them the nudge, like, if you file this, like, I will green light it. And I just remember too that the reason that they were there in May is because the defense was begging her for a pretrial hearing. Don't you remember that? Like, they were like, can we have a hearing, like, to deal with all these motions and issues that we haven't dealt with yet for trial? Like, she didn't want to give them a hearing.
And
like
she literally told them to file the Franks.
No, I'm talking about this.
But that's also a pretrial hearing. But yes, I mean, it's all.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is for that May. Why they were at the courthouse
without
they were begging. And then that's right around the time too when she issued the orders on the March hearings. Remember, like, they got to write their after their post motion memo, and everybody had 30 days. And
thank you, Hella.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. She is the first chair for the prosecution. She's like had a stranglehold on this.
She didn't even now that I'm rereading that.
Just directing everything should go.
She didn't even nudge the prosecution. She literally said, without any kind of motion for motion in limine even filed at all, she made a ruling. She said it will be inadmissible unless that's a ruling on something.
Or like how Brad Holder's alibi is like totally cleared. And it reminds me of the Karen Reed trial where Yannetti in one of the pretrial hearings like argues with Bev like, hey, like you can say all you want that these 3 people had an alibi, but we're not going to accept that. Like we have the right to challenge those alibis at court. And so like it's just wild.
I guess I remember
I
that.
mean,
email being-
the most telling thing here is what Andy has to say, because he's actually like a credible, honest,
Right.
human being, like, which all these other people are not. And I mean, what did he say? What did he say? What's he concerned about? Gives you a clue about what's going on here. Like in some ways, I'm gonna like withdraw some of my opinion, because like I'm usually like, hey, we don't know anything. The defense attorneys know way more than us. I think Andy proved that, like, okay, that's not true. Like we know a lot of things that Andy doesn't know, but Andy probably also knows a lot of things that we don't know. Like we're just
Well,
not.
yeah, we
like,
learned a lot of
we're
them
just not melded together. But I know what he thinks now, and like it's not that far off what I think.
Which is what?
Well, I mean, what did Andy say? Like, what was Andy really concerned about? Like, what was really concerning to him?
I don't know.
It's Brad Holder. Brad Holder's social media was the big thing that like seemed to be like really convincing to Andy.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not going to say that I'm that far off of that.
Yeah. Okay. So you mean
over
like
a hidden crime scene
like,
that like no one was supposed
I think
to know.
that's where we meet in the middle. Like, I kind of agree.
Yeah. So I'm trying to do a multitask. So, okay. I don't know. My head is spinning because it was just really.
You want it to be Ron Logan, but Andy's saying it's.
I want
Hey,
it
there's
to be
no nexus when 2 dead bodies are found on your lawn. There's no
I don't
nexus.
want it to be Ron Logan. I would love for it to be somebody that we could actually prosecute.
Well, I
We can
think that's more.
prosecute
I
a
think
dead
well,
guy
you
just
might
as much.
you might get that, because I think it probably is.
Well, remember, we can't prosecute Elvis because he's slow, because it's like a slow person never was charged with a crime before.
Elvis is not slow. First of all,
that's what Stacey Diener said.
Elvis is like a genius, dude. Like I couldn't fix a lawnmower if my fucking life depended on.
But that was Stacey Diener's argument, that like we can't like go after him because he's like not right.
No, that is so bullshit. That is so bullshit. He cleans his house. His house is damn near immaculate, besides everything being tore up, walls, such. But
dude,
also,
he's got like a dozen cats. Like, do you know how like you have to really work at it? You have like a dozen cats in your house, and your house to be that clean. Like, you actually are. Yeah, he's a very clean person.
And the engines. He's redoing engines left and right.
Right. Like, dude,
all the engines.
Like you put a gun to my head to fix an engine, like I'm gonna die.
Welcome to our new members. I like that we're getting theme quotes relayed back to us. Elvis is a genius, dude. I hope Elvis is watching and got a confidence boost. So here's what I think about Elvis Fields. First of all, Elvis Fields has been married multiple times. He has a daughter. Not that you can't. I mean, not that. What was the word? Slow. Not that slow people can't have children, but he's got a daughter. He's had several wives. He successfully dodged the court systems for years. He's about like $16,000 in child support back payments. But he lives alone. He's self-sufficient. He's held jobs, and he can fix machinery. So, and he also knows how to lawyer up, and he knows better than to talk without one now. And he also knows how to dodge a subpoena. So,
and we can ask questions of these people, and the people that should really be mad at like is law enforcement, because if they had like really investigated like these people, the family, all that stuff, like they could just show us, and then like we wouldn't have to go there.
Hey, Artem, how do you know about like these?
Forrest Gump was a genius, though, even though he technically. I mean, there's many different kinds of there's a
I
lot
guess
of
I was
different-
just relating it to the whole death argument. Like they go, oh, you can't charge or say Ron Logan did it because he's dead. Then they're doing with Elvis. You can't do that because he's slow. Like that's what they keep doing, is coming up with a reason to like guilt trip everybody.
Yeah. So Fiend, do you believe it was just one person? My goodness.
No. Me?
Oh, okay.
Why would I believe that?
I don't know. You're coming at me for
I'm saying like, hey, like, I think Andy had some good information. He also said, like, no. Do you think it's one person? Absolutely not. Like,
right.
Doesn't make any sense. It's multiple people. Okay, here we go. Like, this is some good information. Like this, I mean, I really like everything LJ had to say. I just think we got a lot more information.
Oh, for sure. Well, Andy's been like in the so Ajay
And
came
she
on
did
for
the Tues stuff.
I mean, Andy is he's a talker, so
he wrote the French
I
motion. He's very
expected that we would get some
conversational.
more stuff from Andy, and we did. All right, it's multiple people. It's Brad Holder. It's like, I don't know, like that gives you a lot right there.
It's a smorgasbord of people.
Here we go. Like, it's not Rick Allen.
a smorgy board.
There's no drag marks.
I loved every second of it. Yeah, I loved every
they
second of it.
they weren't there on the 13th. Like
that was interesting because that's where I'm coming out now.
That's some good stuff. All this is good stuff from somebody that he has seen more than we have. On the other hand, we've seen more than he has, which makes it makes it complicated. But like we were kind of meeting in the middle.
Ajay was our easy open. Like, we couldn't just get in with Andy. You know, we needed a nice slow intro.
Well said.
Rosie, I tagged you and I sent the link. Are you so that it's there. Here's another thing we learned. How about Jerry Holman, one, listing Andy as a victim, and then two, trying to arrest Andy for the same incident.
Chart. Oh man.
What is his motivation?
How about Andy just dragging Jerry?
They never had to hit Esther for shit.
The other thing they talked about was they talked about, I almost said a really dirty thing here. We can probably all
do it,
assume what it was going to be, but I'm very excited for Brad tomorrow. The reason I'm excited about Brad, for a lot of reasons, but also like Brad, my obsession has been, like, we all have our like Delphi, like it's layered, right? So we all have like our little like tunnel vision of obsession in this case. Mine has been the DOC and like safekeeping, and I just feel like I hope that we get some of our questions answered tomorrow that we have. Probably some of them we probably can't, especially because there is and will be civil litigation related to what they did to him. But I'm very curious about what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought because I started lusting after Brad, Rosie, and I totally
safekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
We had our hard-ons in Delphi for certain things.
Yes, hard-ons. Rosie, why is Jerry Holman? So I suspect, much like I suspect that he arrested Rick that day because Rick bucked and he's a bully and he's used to people just yielding, and he didn't like being told no, and he wanted Rick to just like, oh yeah, I did it, and he got pissed off, and so he arrested him. I really feel like Baldwin going at Holman in the depositions and basically catching him in his many lies. Like after that, Holman was like, no, this guy's got to go. Like, I feel like that it's all retaliation.
100%. They didn't tell anybody on the prosecution side that they had any inclination about Odinism, third party, anything until those depositions in August. And so once that came out, that's when the professor started getting a phone call. Westfall got a phone call. Like they started trying to clean it up, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. They knew all about that stuff, and they did a complete
And then the
Probably.
IDOC cleared it up by writing affidavits that like, yes, we wear patches and like we're not like in a cult and we're not alone with Richard Allen. And then goes like, yeah, that clears that up. That's fine now.
Who wrote those? Like Gallipo was even like, well, I didn't write that.
Hey, we got Rosie.
My attorney wrote it, and I signed my name to it.
Hey, Rosie's here because she said she's gonna. Well, hi, Rosie. Welcome.
Hi, Rosie.
Can you hear me?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Rosie.
Yes,
it's nice to hear your voice.
Practically a YouTube virgin.
Oh my gosh! Well, welcome.
So
we're happy to be here for you.
Thanks.
We
Yeah,
love that
I
too.
don't really know how this works. So, and I can't see the chat. I don't know if I'm on an iPad. I'm not like I might accidentally kick myself out. So don't be surprised if that happens.
Well, we'll get you back.
Might accidentally kick me out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to regret this. Somebody very smart told me stay off YouTube.
Well, I will tell you, Rosie, nobody is really watching. I mean, we have important people, all 182 of us. I love every single one of them.
It really only matters when you lie on YouTube. Like, if
right.
you tell the truth, be on YouTube all you want.
Exactly. You're fine. You look good. And you're getting lots of support in the chat. So everyone is saying hello to you, Rosie. We're excited to have you here.
Don't be too excited. So anyway, some people had questions. So I served in the Marines. Oh, DB's back. Is DB back?
He's in the chat.
Oh my God,
he's
so
probably
excited.
He's here.
Is that the real DB or not DB?
This is the real DB. Yep.
Okay. The man, the myth, the legend. So I served in the Marines with Jerry Holman. I interviewed him for a story. This was probably 30 years ago. I'm old. Long time ago. So anyway, like a year ago, I talked to him about doing a story. I didn't know about the press conference. Otherwise, I would have been there after sentencing. So I've already interviewed him twice. I've got a lot of questions. I'm an editor for a really small grassroots newspaper in Cleveland, Ohio, and I do freelance writing too. So I'm in the process of creating a blog. It's going to be rosiepalfi.com. It's going to be like very, very bare bones, but like to me, style matters more than substance. I'm not a tech person. So people are asking where, I'm not going to have 90 or 79,000 views like a certain person who had an episode interview with him. You know what I'm saying? So this isn't going to be out tomorrow. I still have questions for him. I took some questions from people on Twitter, probably between 15 and 20 questions. And I don't want to say it's a problem, but when these other interviews come out, stuff that I already asked, some of it is coming out.
Okay.
I've asked some tough questions. I will say that there have not been any bombshell revelations. So I've read and listened to criticism for the other interviews, and I'm going to do my best to be specific in asking my questions and trying to get answers. And I expect to get dragged. Just because everybody.
Who will drag you?
What do you mean, drag?
I don't know.
Well, certainly nobody here.
Well, I mean, you can never make everybody happy, right?
True.
And the thing is, I'm a perfectionist, and I also know that your audience, and not just your audience, but the people. Well, basically, you all may know this case better than some police officers. So you know, I can't just throw quotes on a blog. I have to make sure I've got links to documents and other things, background info and everything. I don't know if that all that makes sense.
It does, and I like
That
this.
makes sense.
You can do an interview about puppies and people will drag you for not talking about kittens, and I think that's true. The other thing, Rosie, that I think is important for critics, and we fall into that category, to keep in mind is that an interviewer, certainly you can be a skilled interviewer, you can be an interviewer that asks important, difficult questions and challenging. You can challenge, you know, there's a way to elicit good info from most people, but there are certain interview subjects who, no matter how skilled of an interviewer you are, your interview is only going to be as good as the content and the quality of the responses and answers and information that you're getting.
Well,
and
it also, the questions
Yeah.
ahead of time doesn't help.
Right.
That's what I feel like is happening, this like stop and go with the interviews where like one comes out and then like the other one's like correcting it, but like was made aware of how to answer it like in advance. I think that has a lot to do with it, especially since like the you know, Holman, any cop, whatever, like they're all like, we can't tell you anything, like, you know, wait till after the case, like, and then they went on stage and then they, you know, they said all this crap and they took like 2 questions and now like no one can ask them like, hey, what were you talking about for 7 years?
Well, and yeah, I like this too. Precostin is just reminding you, Rosie, that we really appreciate you doing this. And I hope that the overall feedback from you, since you've kind of put it out there that you are continuing your interviews with him and the questions you've received, like I hope that you feel like you can ask, you know, if there is like something that you need or you want to fact check something, because we can tell, or at least I can tell from following you for the last few months, as long as I've known you on the internet, at least, you are a perfectionist, but that's okay because you're in a chat with many perfectionists. So all of that to say, yeah, I think that if there's anything that we can do to kind of support you, because we want this to be a really good interview and we want you to be successful in it, but we also we got questions and we all want answers. So, yeah. And is it okay, Rosie, if I read some of the questions in the chat that are coming for you?
Yeah. Can I say a couple things first? Is that
Oh
okay?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
So I've already interviewed him twice and like, I don't want to get into answers, but like I said, there so far aren't any, you know, bombshell revelations, but I want you to know specifically, Ange, that I asked about, I don't even know how to say this, your situation, what happened with
Yeah.
you, because that, you know, you had an entire show about that and that's come up and
Multiple.
I think right. So just so you know, I asked with what happened with that situation. There are people, understandably, who are probably going to say that I'm biased, right? Because I knew him.
Sure.
So I want to tell people though that for from 2015 to 2022, so that's about 8 years, I worked on police reform in Cleveland. They're under a consent decree, and I was on a committee that was created under the consent decree, the City of Cleveland Mental Health Response Advisory Committee. So I've heard Ange talk about some things that she did earlier in her career with the police. And so basically, I, as a committee member, was working with the police and other professionals to help write curriculum for crisis intervention and write policies. So, you know, I am, you know, I don't want to say I'm pro police. Like I'm pro constitutional policing. You know, a lot of people I served in the military with did go into law enforcement, but I just I just want people to know that, you know, that I've worked on police reform. So
Sure. So is that, so you started to kind of talk about the questions you've asked him already, because you've interviewed him twice. You mentioned that you did ask him about my situation. And then you mentioned police. So do you have specific concerns, or like, do you have specific worries about maybe like backlash, or kind of, I guess, like, say more about that?
backlash would, well, let me, let me tell you something. So I I've been following this case from the beginning, and I had no idea. Ironically, I was Googling something to see, because there hasn't been any transparency. And I saw an interview where he was quoted, and, was really surprised. So, sorry, I just kind of, I just kind of lost my train of thought.
It's
for a
okay.
second.
That happens a lot here.
Okay. So I wanted to write about what other people aren't writing about. And two things are, one, I wanted to know, and obviously I couldn't do this story until after the trial, but I wanted to know how this impacted law enforcement. What was happening behind the scenes? I saw a interview where then First Sergeant Holman said that in the beginning it was controlled chaos, or in the beginning it was chaos, and then later it was controlled chaos. And I remember thinking, what does controlled chaos look like? I had all these questions. So last August, when I started so I was following like 3 podcasts at that point. I wasn't following on YouTube. I wasn't following anybody in the true crime community on Twitter. And the other thing I wanted to write about was social media, because I know that social media has had an impact, positive and negative. And so I started doing research and watching. I watched shows with psychics that are reporting on the Delphi murders. Like I did research and found over 300 podcasts and YouTube channels that have reported on the Delphi murders case. And so what I had planned to do was, when these court filings were coming out, I was going to write about those and then quote some of the more prominent podcasts that I was listening to for kind of like legal commentary. Defense Diaries is one of the ones I'm referring to. Then, like a month later, the Frank's memo dropped, and then the crime scene photo leak happened, and people started getting doxxed and swatted. And I thought, you know what? I'm not getting paid for this, and I'm just not going to start writing about this now. I'm not going to put myself out there. I'm going to wait until after the trial's over. And so I guess that's where I am now.
Does anyone have any questions while we have Rosie up here?
Rosie, you should just do your thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that it's rad that you're, fact checking and taking in all sides of everything, this like holistic approach to an interview. And so I think it's badass. I don't think you need to apologize, as long as, you're doing fact checking and whatnot. And from all accounts, that's what you've been doing.
I appreciate that greatly. And if you need help with any of that, you can always reach out to any number of us for links to documents we already have, things we've already probably picked apart up and down. So,
Oh, thanks. I actually plan to do that. You know, and I've actually told him that there's a community that probably knows the case better than law enforcement.
I'm
I
sure he'd
mean,
love to hear that.
well, I mean, it's true. And so I don't agree with everybody's opinions in the community, but there is a lot of common ground regarding the secrecy, just the judge's decision. Five different hearings in Fort Wayne and Delphi. I wasn't able to attend the trial because I realized that there was no way I was going to get a seat, unfortunately, because I was prepared to go there for a month, and so it's unfortunate that I wasn't able to do that. But I know that you all are experts on a lot of these details, so I have no problem reaching out to somebody and asking some questions. I've actually learned things from the questions that people have already provided to me on X. So I had asked some of those questions, but I hadn't drilled down into some of the details that people were asking questions about. Does that make sense? And so
yeah,
my answers were, or his answers were more specific. By the way, he doesn't have the questions. I didn't send him questions.
Oh, good, because that was one of the
Well,
questions
fuck
that
yeah.
someone. Yeah, that's great.
And yeah, Rosie's hit me up before, like, to ask about questions and documents. So, you know,
and
she does it.
and I've asked Fiend questions too. He knows a lot, but yeah. So I'm gonna do the best that I can. Like I don't want people to, expect like a Pulitzer prize winning piece with all these like revelations. But I have a lot of questions and oh, Truth Seeker. So at Rosie Palfy on Twitter. Can somebody put that? Maybe I can put it in the chat. I can
Yes,
try.
yeah, we're gonna link it for you.
Okay, well, let me see. Yeah, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm gonna see if this works. Did that work? I
Yes,
put in
it
my
did.
Twitter.
I'm gonna copy your
okay.
handle. Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, and Ange, thanks to you, I got a subscription to the Carroll County Comet a while ago.
Yeah, it's a very useful. I would say personally, I enjoyed it more a couple prior to they sold it recently, so they had some turnover. But it's a really great resource, and it's a really good like archival record of just everything for the not just Carroll County. Actually, they cover a lot of. They used to cover a lot of the area, but yeah. I hope you're enjoying that. Your subscription to the Carroll County Comet. Thanks to me, just because I talked about it a lot, or
well, so
do you get a discount code? I'm just kidding.
No, I wish. No. Thankfully, you posted a screenshot of a story once. It was probably, it could have been 6 months ago, and I went to the website and found out there was a paywall, and I was so grateful that you posted a screenshot of the story. And I was trying to get a subscription for a while, and it was kind of complicated because they had just been sold and wanted.
Oh yeah, for like a month or two, yeah.
But they wanted to sell a 1-year subscription for like $100.
Oh,
and
That's
but then they were also saying they had
what?
Like, yeah, well, and I mean, honestly, I love newspapers, but you don't know if they're going to be in business a year from now. I hate to say it.
Right, for sure. I've not. Yeah, that's weird. That's odd. That's yeah, that's a good point, Rosie. I guess I never thought about that. If you do a year, yeah, because then what happened? Because when they sold it, people were like, "Well, wait a
could also
second."
just have a website where like you sell like ads and stuff. Like that's how like the whole internet works. Like they all make their money off of ads.
Rosie, another question I'm seeing a couple of times. Do you have an ETA of when you'd like the interview to be completed and live?
Sorry. Soon. I've been trying to. He was on vacation, so after sentencing.
Where
So
did he go on vacation, Rosie?
I'm not gonna say.
I don't want to
He's
know.
back
Don't say
at
it on
work.
my
It
channel,
doesn't
Queen. Have her on.
matter. It doesn't matter.
Oh, like
but
maybe generically, do you go to a tropical island? He's in the Caribbean.
I'm not gonna.
The Caribbean,
living it up.
I'm not gonna say
celebrating.
Behave, fiend, please. So one of my interviews, he did do an interview with me while he was on vacation. But I have a lot more questions for him. So I'm not sure, guys. Like, I might regret saying this. But so I talked to him a year ago about doing an interview, and this has been hard for him. Like, he has gotten death threats, and I don't expect anyone to be sympathetic, but I wasn't sure if he was going to want to give interviews at first, and I wasn't going to try to push him for that. I said, let me know, when you feel comfortable. And I also didn't know if they were going to be able to speak right away after sentencing. So I did not know about the press conference and did not reach out to him for an interview because I had no idea. Yeah.
Hey, it's DB. I was just wondering, did you get any of the materials or any background reports on the death threats?
It's proof, not self-reporting. I think is kind of where we're at.
So I don't, and see, that's the other thing is that, I want receipts for things as far as public records go, and I don't have any public records. And one of the issues is that somebody was talking about the Frank's memo, and there's a treasure trove of information in there. But part of the problem is that, like, we don't have the Murphy report. We haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. We haven't seen the depositions, right?
We've seen pieces of it though.
Right. But
lawyers can't lie in pleadings. So I think that's also difficult because I feel like the prosecution stuff gets like belief with no receipts.
That's a fair criticism. So I guess part of it is that because I haven't read some of the these documents, if I had read them, there's more questions I would have about them. DB, were you referring to receipts about death threats?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it sounds like you're saying that during this interview, Holman told you that he received, it sounds like, multiple death threats. So were they specific to him with known people threatening him?
So I'm not going to get into the specifics now. But this is something that was ongoing, like before the trial, and I mean, I'm
not necessarily asking for specifics. So let's take that out.
Yeah,
I'm just, did you get specifics? Do you have police reports? Do you have Did you do an investigation on the threats, and are they actionable by the state police?
So I don't have police reports, and one of the interesting things, I don't know if interesting is the right word, that came up in the interview that Mr. Baldwin did with Defense Diaries was that he received death threats. And so, I don't know if those were reported, but if
They were, yeah.
They were.
We all saw them, and they were very
It
specific.
shouldn't.
And the Indiana
And
State Police let
so
that person into the trial.
Yes. And Michael Osbrook was also threatened. I saw those threats in real time on Twitter. And so to me, everybody should be treated equally, regardless of who you are, if there's death threats against you. So I know people want information fast, as do I, but I also feel like I should get some of these public records, and I don't know how long that's going to take.
I
Does that
think that
make
you
sense
should,
to you?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're reporting it. So I think it's been reported to, and I don't think there's been enough follow up on that. And certainly, a lieutenant with the state police making claims in his official duties a little bit different than a defense attorney, a private citizen, making, telling a story. He's a public servant and a public official, and if they have actionable information and reports have been taken, that should certainly be in record somewhere.
And it should be an investigation. And I guess also you might be in a better position to know what to ask for. If that makes sense. A lot of times we don't even know what to ask for regarding like documents.
Yeah, because I've heard that,
Correct.
and on some of the answers that he's given or in press conferences, when there's any kind of pushbacks, people will say, I've received death threats. And I think that, the internet has all different kinds of language. And if you really go and look at the way some people talk shit online, like you could perceive a lot of things ultimately as physical violence, I guess. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do about something. Like people can take that as like, some type of life-threatening consequence eventually. So, but when a public official says it publicly, I think that's worth investigating. And so, it's something that I would personally like to look into. Now that that's out there.
So, I'm going to try to be as vague as I can be. So I will say this, that I knew for a fact that there were death threats made against multiple law enforcement officers, like before the trial.
They're police officers, though. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. No, I interrupted you. Go ahead, Rosie.
No,
I'm bad about that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. And that, like I haven't seen any police reports, but action was taken to make sure that certain individuals were safe. So law enforcement took whatever threats that they got seriously. Does that make sense? And
not really.
And the threats didn't. So the threats don't always come to a person per se, right? Like directly.
They're vague.
As far
Then
as
they're not
somebody
threats.
calling. No. I mean,
saying like
always...
all police or like teachers or like naming like a broad range, like a broad.
In terms of what, Rosie? In terms of someone calling.
So somebody might not reach out to that individual person specifically, but somebody else may have seen or heard the threat against them. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, they should document it though.
Yes, and that is something I'm going to look into. And the thing is I know that people are going to have a lot of questions in general after they read a story or see an interview, hear a podcast. I know I'm not going to have all the answers, but I'm going to do my best.
And if there's threats, like they should be investigated. It doesn't matter like who they're to. I think like anyone having death threats against them, like doesn't make it okay. Just like locking up Rick like in Westville, like because he's convicted, like doesn't make it okay. So if they're actionable, I feel like they should be acted on, like actionable in terms of like investigating. Like how can anybody exist with like death threats all the time?
Can I clarify something?
Yeah.
I apologize, Ange, if I made it sound like any of this had anything to do with you, because it doesn't. Does that make sense?
Well, I know that. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, I know that.
I don't think that.
Okay. Well, I don't want anybody to think that I was accusing you of threatening anybody.
No, Rosie,
okay.
Jerry Holman did that.
Jerry Holman is the one who accused me of sending him death threats. So that's why I'm curious, because you had mentioned that you asked him about my situation, and he is listed as a victim on that. Well, so clearly, he believes he is a victim. So that's why I was just kind of wondering.
And I haven't seen the report, and I don't know how long it'll take to get the report, but
mine. Oh, I can just send it to you.
Well, no, okay. I mean, we would like to get what you can get too.
Right. And so
is it the same thing? That's the other problem.
Well, she just said it's not about me, so clearly he's getting death threats from other people.
Well, I just meant by comparison. Like if you send your
okay, but I'm saying that
is calling somebody Shrek a death threat?
Say again? No.
Is calling somebody Shrek a death threat?
No. And I'm so I'm saying
I just don't want to be accused of anything.
Go ahead, Rosie.
I'm saying that it's
Did we lose?
Just him that there.
Rosie, you cut out. Can you repeat that? I lost you after I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What I'm saying is that it's not just him specifically. Other individual law enforcement officers have been threatened, and as well as some of the people here have been. I know some of you have received threats from people in the community.
I actually have. I have. Yeah. Sorry. Yep. Go ahead, Rosie. I'm gonna mute.
That's all I was going to say. I mean, threats are wrong. Anybody who's being threatened, like it should be investigated. Nobody should have to live in fear.
Well, Rosie, did you listen to the? I know you said you missed some of Andy's interview, but I mean, he brought up very specifically that he was threatened and that it was not investigated.
So I missed the first half hour and the last half hour, and I did hear what Fiend is referring to. So do they only should they only investigate like supposed death threats against themselves that they have zero evidence of, but not actual death threats that there's lots of evidence of against lots of people and defense attorneys, which I mean, but both of which are crimes. Like those are crimes. Those are things that should be investigated. They shouldn't investigate those, but they should investigate or whine about death threats against themselves that there's zero evidence of. So that was one of the many notes that I've taken to ask about. Were threats against the defense attorneys taken seriously?
I mean, they obviously weren't. If they weren't investigated, like, it's not were they taken seriously, like, were they investigated? Obviously, it's serious.
Well, I'm
It's
sorry.
obviously a crime. It's obviously a crime to make death threats against people. There's no question about whether this is a crime. It's a crime that did occur in broad daylight for everybody to see. Everybody did see these crimes occurring, and they didn't do anything about these things.
So, Phoenix, when I say was something taken seriously by that, I mean, was something investigated? Was there a police report taken? So I think we're on the same page about that.
I have something to say. Julie Melvin was threatened live in front of a cop, and the cop did nothing.
Oh yeah, that's on video.
On a live. Julie Melvin.
Well, I guess what we're getting to is, like, you gotta file a police report or something. Like, you gotta, like, if a cop sees something, they can just ignore it. But if they imagine it, they can whine about it all fucking day.
Okay, so this is what we're gonna do, folks. I appreciate everybody coming on. Ange appreciates everybody coming on as well, but Ange still has some notes that she needs to get to on the rest of the video. So for right now, we're gonna go back to a little solo layout. And Ange, if you want to finish the notes that you have and the discussion you have before you get ready to sign off.
Yeah, I want to do like a conclude, because it's getting late, and there's probably a lot more that we can talk about Andy's interview, but I do want to just like conclude on that note, because that was, I mean, I love the conversation, but I do want to go back to like the interview tonight, if that's okay, everybody. But I appreciate everyone for being here and for sharing. Okay. So I actually feel like I got through most of the things I wrote down. I do just want to, I'm trying to think now. I'm a little bit like off kilter. I don't really know what to expect tomorrow with Brad. Especially, I know even Andy was saying how, like, Andy kind of wears his emotions on his sleeve. He's very open and very cozy and very, he seems to be upfront, not even transparent. He's just like, what you see is what you get, right? I believe Brad is a little bit more, I don't know how he described him, maybe like more reserved, not like a super emotional person. So it'll be a very different kind of interview, I suspect, or maybe not. But I don't know. I think it's cool we're getting all three of them. My biggest takeaway from tonight, you're blurry. I know. I don't know how to. I don't know how to fix it. If Andy wears his emotions on his sleeve, Brad wears his on his pant leg. I think I want to circle back to something Andy said I wrote down, and believe he was talking about the October 19th hearing. Because we are biased here, right? Everybody's biased. We all have biases. Really what matters is that we recognize and acknowledge and are aware of that. And if we are in a position or we have a job or a role that requires us to suspend our bias, or at least, you know, not act on our bias, that we're able to do that. When it comes to this case, I am so far past that. Because I really do believe that Rick is innocent, and more than that, I really believe that nothing about this has been normal or fair or standard. And we just keep seeing example after example of that. But because of the gag, because of the way the case is handled, because of just the oppressive nature, God, this is annoying me. The like oppressive nature of the state and of the law enforcement in this case, and the judge, the imbalance in the scales of justice, defense and state, the defense really has had to be quite insulated, is what I got the sense of. They didn't really know what they could or couldn't do or say with the gag, which really didn't serve the intended purpose of a gag order, which is legally violating our constitutional rights to free speech, because, you know, attorneys and defendants have a right to free speech too. So a gag order is a big deal. It's violating your right to free speech and to defend yourself, essentially. In some instances, it was so oppressive and overbroad, it basically prevented the defense from conducting any kind of really meaningful community investigation, and it prevented them from interacting or engaging with the community in any meaningful way. And not only that, but the state and law enforcement are continuing to utilize this tactic where they make these really egregious, unfounded, completely made up, horrible accusations. They're defamatory is what they are. They make these accusations against the defense that are not true, but the purpose of it is not only to defame them and slander them and discredit them, it's to control them. It's so that they don't trust the public. It's so that they don't trust the community. It's so that they don't trust anybody. And we've seen it be quite effective in this case. And that can't continue, because clearly there were things that, because of the lies and the insulation and how siloed things have been and had to be for the defense, but also just the lack of transparency, the breadth of discovery, like all of these factors kept the defense from having all of the information I feel that they needed. And to be perfectly honest, I really don't believe it would have made any difference. I don't know why this won't. What did I do last time that worked to make it? I don't know. Just cross your eyes and it'll look less blurry, maybe. I know that Andy spoke about having some regrets, and that made me sad for him, because I do believe with all my heart that Brad and Andy are the reason that Rick is alive today. Maybe the Franks memo pissed the judge off. Maybe it was, some people have said, like a little histrionic at times. The Franks memo kept the Rick alive. They needed eyes on this case, and that information needed to come out, and it wouldn't have come out. But regardless, there's like a line, how do I want to say this? When it comes to like whistleblowing or, you know, transparency, it's a double-edged sword, because blowing the whistle on something can make you a target, but there becomes a point where blowing the whistle is like the only thing that's going to keep you safe, right? Like I felt this way when Mike Thomas filed his federal lawsuit. There was a lot of worry and anxiety. Mike is a good friend of mine, and I care about him a lot. And that was a really brave, difficult thing for him to do, because he already felt, in some ways, it's all outlined in the lawsuit, it's public, but he already felt in some ways like ostracized and targeted for certain opinions and beliefs and things he had expressed. But also, you know, filing a complaint against an entity as powerful and, I don't know, as the police is a big deal. But it really, I do believe, kept him safe, because once eyes are on something, it's harder for people to get away with the things that they could get away with before. Does that make sense? I am kind of being tangential right now, but I think by the time the Franks memo was filed, Rick's situation was so dire and the skills were so imbalanced, and there was really not going to be any way to correct that. And they needed that information to come out. And I do imagine that they have, Mike is doing really good. Actually, I just talked to him. He's really doing very well. I don't remember where I was going. Oh, Andy spoke about, though, I'm circling back. There's such a huge community of people who not only believe in Rick's innocence, and I'm going to say innocence because I know a lot, even people that support his due process and believe his rights were violated and they don't think it was a fair trial. But I'm going to go farther than that and say that I know for a fact there are so many people that truly believe in his innocence and in his, how, you know, his rights were violated and this was just not a fair fight. But I don't think Brad and Andy maybe have had the opportunity to like really see what that looks like, because they've I feel like they've avoided the public, the cranks, the social media YouTubers, whatever you want to call them, because YouTubers at the end of the day are just like people. Like, I have a profession, Courtney has a profession, DB has a profession, everybody has a profession. We're just people. It's 2025. Like, we can stop pretending like the internet is reserved for like a certain group of, like, everybody uses it. It's just a place for people to discuss and have community. So the fact that the defense has been basically threatened or coerced or barred from tapping into that really important resource sucks. And I think that, or I'm hoping that now that they're speaking out, some of that fear or whatever anxiety will maybe dissipate a little bit. Andy spoke about feeling really alone. What did he say? He said on the 19th, when they got booted off the case in October, he said, Brad and I felt so alone at that time. And I just like wanted to cry, because I'm thinking back to that hearing where we were all just waiting for it to be streamed, because it was the only one that she was going to allow to be streamed. And when I hear them talk about heard him talk about how alone they felt, I was thinking about all of us on this side of things, just like fully having their back and fully believing in them and being able to like see, being able to really see what was going on and see through the bullshit and see through the fuckery. I don't know. I hope that as they maybe start to like tip their toe into the world of online supporters, maybe they'll see that. You know, I wanted to just like reach through the screen and like give Andy a hug, but also I wanted to like pull the curtain back and let him just see like kind of like a holistic picture of what the last 2 years have looked like on this side of things. And like, I wanted him to see them through the lens through which we see them. Does that make sense? It's just crazy that we're talking. I have the worst notes, Rosie. I don't know who you're thinking of, but clearly I don't take notes. But the chat just saves automatically in YouTube, Rosie, so you can always go back through it. But I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's a lot later than I thought it would be when we were going to do this recap, but hi, Olivia. I wanted to read something and now I can't find it. Let's see. I wonder if I do it this way. The other thing I was wondering is I don't know that Brad and Andy certainly didn't know this because obviously they have access to all the discovery, right? I don't know if they realize that the public exhibits and public evidence is not actually public. Like, do they know that she has sealed all of, do they know that? And if they do, like, is there a mechanism for them to like just release it? Just asking. Just curious because it feels like that would be a really important way for the public to get a better idea as to what is really going on. It's easy to, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I wanted to read this though because it's something that I wrote back when Yellow and I had another channel, and I actually started feeling really sad listening to Andy tonight because a lot of like the archive and the memorialization of the last 2 years has unfortunately been destroyed by the same people who have worked overtime to destroy Brad and Andy and Rick and his case. A lot of the same people worked really hard to silence anybody who disagreed with them, silence anyone who was bringing attention to the injustice against Rick Allen. And unfortunately, part of that meant that Courtney and I lost our channel, which was literally the best record of our following the case, and a lot of the organic like community that sprung forth from just watching Rick's pre-trial, I don't know, life course unfold. Like a lot of that is gone now. And that really sucks because I think it would have been really special and really cool for Andy and Brad and Rick one day to be able to look back and see how many people that long ago were in fact like kind of walking through this, not with them, but on the outside, watching them go through it. And while we can't get that back, I think it's important to remember, you know, Rick has been convicted, but this in no way is this over. And I'm hopeful that with his conviction will come a new opportunity to not just get justice for Rick, but actually investigate the murders and actually investigate the crime. Because with a conviction, yes, the state may feel like they've won, but although then why they're spending a lot of energy trying to convince the public that the defense is bad and they're still trying to malign the defense. They're still trying to what did somebody say? Maybe it was Michael or someone else. Usually after a lynching, the lynch mob disperses, and yet here they are. They're still here with us. So, and they're trying to get Rick not to appeal. We will know. Yeah, no, we're not going to stop. Okay. So I wrote this the day that the Supreme Court reinstated Brad and Andy. And that was the day we watched, a lot of us at least watched Mark Lehman give the oral argument. Hi, Adrian. I love you. You're totally right. And I will also add, this is an emo post, so you can clown if you want. But this was the day that the attorneys got reinstated. And it's been clowned on. Like, I think like a bunch of the channels posted it and we're talking about like how lame it was. I don't care. I'm going to read it anyway because it was really, oops, from the heart. Why can't I get this? I don't know if y'all can see that. Okay. Mark Lehman, Kara Winnicke, and Bernice Corley. And Bernice Corley is the director for the, I don't know if director is the right word, for the Public Defenders Council. She's amazing. She's awesome. She filed the brief, or authored, at least in part, one of the briefs for Rick's OA. They were the heroes of the day. They, along with their fellow defenders, advocates, and allies, took a brave stance against what was proven to be an urgent and egregious miscarriage of justice. In the end, thanks to their fierce legal competence and tenacity, justice prevailed. While there should be no question about our personal feelings for Rick Allen's legal team, there is one individual who I think deserves special acknowledgement. A man who has dedicated his life to the oft-thankless job of defending and fighting for the rights of the accused, who sees the humanness in every defendant before him, and whose legal prowess, professional reputation, and personal integrity are beyond reproach, yet whose most lethal legal weapons are his innate creativity and seemingly bottomless compassion. In the midst of relentless, coordinated, and meritless campaign of accusations, slander, and disparagement, Andy has stood humbly, patiently, and quietly in the background, willing to fall on whatever sword necessary to protect and defend his constitutionally and factually innocent client, Rick. Andy, your tireless efforts have not been in vain. In a field that is too often consumed by darkness, hopelessness, and disappointment, we recognize your zealous advocacy and sacrificial love and passion for your profession, for your clients, and for justice. Justice for one is justice for all, and from the bottom of our hearts, we see you and we thank you. And I don't think that Andy knows that we feel that way. And that made me sad. And I suspect it's because he has been quite busy and consumed defending his innocent client. But it just is so, I don't know, I'm having like a lot of realizations. There's something it's very effective, you know, this tactic that the state has used and their actors have used. You pit people who threaten your whatever the fuck it's called, who threaten your case, who threaten your plan, you pit them against one another. So by attacking the defense and using people like me and people like the Due Process Gang and people like Mitch Westerman, you know, by using allies to attack the defense has become, or the defense became completely isolated from and paranoid and insulated and totally just removed from their community, the community that supported them. And it's been effective, and it's upsetting. And I just think it's a good lesson it's just a good lesson, you know? And I hope that moving forward, they can and will utilize the community that has truly had their backs and, you know, rallied behind them and rallied behind Rick since the beginning. and I will be roasting Jerry Holman. I will be roasting Jerry Holman on another live, because Jerry Holman deserves to be roasted. Jerry Holman actually belongs in prison, but it's probably never going to happen. Jerry Holman we can't even get Jerry Holman investigated for provable crimes, but that's okay. Here's the thing. I'm not scared of Jerry Holman, and Brad and Andy are not scared of Jerry Holman, and Rick Allen is not scared of Jerry Holman. So, I mean, that's why he arrested him, because he wasn't scared of him, and Holman didn't like that. So I hope that is abundantly clear. If there's one thing that this rant that you get from this rant, I listened to that entire interview tonight, and I did not get the sense that Andy is backing down, or that he. How many Holman interviews have we had to listen to where the guy they're edited, they're not live, they're clipped, they're clipped to hell. The questions he gets beforehand, they're the same fucking questions we've heard for 7 years. He gives the same nonsensical answers, except for when he changes his answers and contradicts himself. I don't believe a word that he says. And tonight was the first time I've had an opportunity to hear Andy just kind of organically in the flesh, off the cuff. And it was a very, I got the sense that he's not planning on like backing down anytime soon. I don't think that Rick is without counsel. I think that Rick Gull has removed his counsel from the CCS, but I don't think that, if anything, I feel like Rick probably has more support now than he has ever had. So if anyone should be scared, it should probably be the state, because I don't think that their conviction has a whole lot of meat behind it, you know? Just a lot of condiments, not a whole lot of meat and potatoes on that thing. Imagine if they had I wanted to talk about the bail let hearing. I had a bunch of shit I wanted to talk about, and then I got, we had a fun panel instead, which is cool. I'm glad. I want to talk about the bail let hearing next time, because it's frustrating. Things maybe could have been different had they had that, but they couldn't, because the state didn't give them any discovery. So it's not even their fault. I mean, one could look at it and be like, oh, you should have done this differently. But how are they to conduct a bail let hearing when they've not gotten a single piece of discovery? I believe this. A good prosecutor doesn't mess with innocent people ever. Yeah. Oh my God. Or where the corruption goes so high that nothing will be done properly or fairly. It does, and it won't. At least not the way that, and I don't know if there can ever really be. I don't know. I have a lot of doubts. Yeah, this is good. Andy was an adult. It was like the first time we actually heard someone talk about the Delphi case where it didn't feel like yeah, Steve, that's a great point. Nobody can see him or talk to him. He's back in Westville. They put him back in hell. He has diagnosed serious mental illnesses. I mean, Westville shouldn't want him back. Do people realize that? Westville should not want him anywhere near them, because first of all, they are about to be sued. Like, they know that. The DOC knows that. They know that they're going to get sued. So why would they want to touch that? Why would they want him back there? Who made the decision to put him back there? And they should want to get him as far away from them as possible. He is a liability. And what if he becomes psychotic again? Are they going to have to go through this whole fucking thing again? I agree with Truth Seeker, and Andy didn't want to go there, right? He said like he's baffled as to why they would put him back there and why it happened so quickly. And he didn't want to go so far as to like make any accusations without, you know, proof. But I'm very afraid that the reason that they did that, their boldness really knows no bounds. And they're obviously up to something, you know. They don't want him to appeal, so much so that the judge held a hearing asking him, do you want to plead guilty? And your attorneys won't let you. And he's like, no, in no uncertain terms do I want to plead guilty. She's like, okay. Andy was very gracious with her about that tonight. I'm not gracious with her about that. And two, she asked him at his sentencing to his face, do you want to appeal or waive your appeal or whatever? Like, that's not a question that he had to answer. He didn't owe her an answer right then and there. You just had him sit there and listen to a bunch of fucking people ask him, beg him, bully him into not appealing. Okay. And then you're going to ask him in front of all of them if he wants to appeal. What the fuck is wrong with them? What the fuck is wrong with these people? Are they crazy? Are they fucking nuts? And you know that there's certain people I'm thinking of in particular who were probably dying for Andy to become unhinged or for him to like go off, and they would have loved that. But it's just not in his character. Anyway, I'll have more to say tomorrow. Everyone go watch Hella Excited Utterance tomorrow. She's doing a pregame again, and it's going to be good. And go to the Seeking Justice Reddit group, I believe, or Reddit sub, whatever it's called. They have a lot of info about Rick and how you can send him stuff. And yeah, so Excited Utterance tomorrow, pregame, I believe at 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern time, if you're in the United States. And then we're going to watch Bob and wait. No. Brad is at 6 tomorrow. Sorry, yes. Thank you. Thank you, Excited Utterance. My bad. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, because Brad's interview starts at 6 p.m. Eastern. So Excited Utterance, just what? Let me start over. Excited Utterance will be doing a pregame for the interview tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern, and then the interview with Bob and Brad will start at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then we will be doing a after party whenever Brad and Bob conclude. And hopefully it'll be a little, I mean, not that I want it to be a shorter interview. I hope it goes all night, but maybe it'll start a little earlier than tonight. Yeah, I can't even. I'll have more to say tomorrow, but I hope you all have a good night. Thanks.